Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Berserk, the board game. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Berserk, the board game by Monolith. Now this is a sponsored video, and this is a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, things like that are subject to change, but this is also a GameFound campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned for this. Now, if you heard me say Berserk, and you're thinking, that Berserk? Yes, that Berserk of manga fame. So it is based on the manga. This is going to take you through that classic story where you're playing as characters that you may know and love, but you don't necessarily need to appreciate the board game version. But this is going to be a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players where you are able to play this true solo, where you're always operating with at least 3 of the heroes, but you are able to play this true solo with up to 4 of your friends for a 5-player game. And this is going to be a game where you're able to play either the campaign and play it sequentially, or you can drop in on certain scenarios. So if you want to play a particular scenario, there's actually different rules for you to load in onto that scenario where you choose certain upgrades and things like that. So you are able to play just certain ones if that's your taste, or you're able to play it continuously throughout the whole story. Now, this scenario is currently set up with 3 different characters, and you are going to set this up differently depending on the scenario that you're playing. So you can see that there are a bunch of demons and monsters out here on the board, and players also have an ally, such as the Skull Knight over here, which is also going to help them. And with the 3 different hero player boards, there are the 3 heroes over here. So they're starting over on this side, and you can see these tokens are going to be different spawn points for things happening, and some monsters already start out on the board. So you can see the stats for them here for who you're fighting against, and they definitely work together well, where certain ones are going to buff each other. So focusing on certain enemies and trying to spread them out is going to be really important, because a lot of these enemies are going to want to be doing certain things, such as not being next to too many of your allies at once, or trying to rush at you, things like that. Now, throughout the game, there's going to be a hero phase, and then the monster enemy phase, and then an event phase. So that's going to be the general pace of play, and to start off a scenario, you may be reading a certain event card. For example, we have our events over here for scenario 6, and you'll start off reading scenario A. So just to go over what that might look like, it's going to have you read certain things when things would trigger. So for example, if Zod is killed, you would read event card 6F, but if Grundlebeld is killed, then you would reveal card 6G. So depending on when certain things trigger, you will start reading certain cards, and that's what's going to progress you through the story. But as a player, you're going to have a few things that you are worried about, such as your health and your fatigue. Your health obviously is going to be important, because as you start getting hurt and taking damage, you're getting closer to death, and you really want to protect yourself. But certain characters, such as Guts, are going to get more and more powerful as they start to lose their health. So it's not good, but it's not bad along the same way. So there's that, but you're also taking a look at your fatigue, because fatigue is going to be the main system around how you're playing your cards. So players are going to have a set of 8 cards, and these cards you're able to upgrade, and it's also really cool how you have a branching pathway of how you're going to upgrade these. So for example, if you have card 1, you're going to have an option to upgrade that to card 1B or 1A, depending on what you want to do and what your choices are. So there are definitely, I'll show you in a little bit, but there are different dice that you're going to be rolling, as well as different abilities that are on these cards. But depending on the number of cards that you're using, you're spending your fatigue. So if you only play 1 card, it's 0 fatigue, it doesn't cost you anything. But as soon as you play 2 cards, which you're going to want to do because these demons are very, very overwhelming, as soon as you're playing 2, it's costing you 2 fatigue to do so. And if you dare to play 3 cards, that's going to cost you 4 fatigue. Now, in the beginning, that might not seem that bad, but as you're taking on more and more fatigue, you're becoming more ineffective. So some people are going to be affected where, depending on the threshold they hit, you might have less movement, you might be rolling less attack dice, or you might be able to shield yourself a little bit worse. So depending on the different things that are affecting you, that is going to go down. So taking a look at Guts here, you can see as their fatigue track increases, first their shields will decrease, then their movement, then some of their attack, and then more of their shields. But they have that ability that I mentioned, that as their health goes down, they are adding dice to their rolls as well. So they do have that to make them a bit stronger. But as you can see over here, the attack dice are actually what is decreased first, and then the shield and movement. Now, all of the characters do have special abilities, so Guts is rolling those extra die, whereas Shrike is going to be able to add astral cubes to their pool and then be able to spend them to buff cards later. So all of the characters are going to have these special abilities that make them feel very unique, but on top of that, you are going to have that deck of 8 cards that I mentioned. So here, these are the cards for Guts, and taking a look through these, here we can find Deadly Charge, and this one you can see is an upgraded card. So this one is 1A, and this is, depending on the scenario, you may have certain cards upgraded going into it, and that just makes them stronger. So to go over what player cards are going to look like, because as I said, you're choosing to play 1, 2, or 3 of them on your turn, depending on how much fatigue you want to incur, as well as other decisions that you feel you need to make at the time. But the cards that you play are going to contribute dice for your attack, as well as movement and shield. So depending on what you choose you want to do, I am just going to grab these 3 just as an example. If these were the 3 that we chose to play this turn, we would be able to choose move a total of 4, and that movement can be broken up. So we would be able to move 2, attack, and then move 2 again, but we would have a total of that much movement. And then during the enemy's turn, we'll also have 3 shield, which can be really great. But the most important part is that we're going to have these die for attacking. So as you can see, there are all of these dice here, and some of them are a little bit cooler than others, but they're all pretty good, besides the yellow ones, which are going to be the most basic. But even the yellow ones are pretty good. When you're in a pinch, you're going to want to be rolling them. So this one, the ability is, if the target of your attack was within range 4 or more at the start of your activation, double all of the damage points from your yellow dice for this attack. So with this, you can see here, we're rolling 2 yellow, 2 purple, and a red. And let's say, for example, we were able to move up with that 4 movement, get right into someone's face, and roll all of these. We'll be able to double all of our yellows. So taking a look at what we rolled here, yes, this is everything that we had. You can see here that we're doing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage, but then because of this ability, we're actually doing 13 instead. But when you're taking a look at that, you are going to have different enemies that they will have shields, so you do have to take that into account. That, for example, if we were trying to hit Grundlebeld, he has a total of 5 shield, which is a lot of shield. But some of them, such as the other guys, they could have, for example, 2 or 1 shield, meaning that this would be a very strong attack. Now, regardless, that is a very strong attack against this guy, and you are going to be wanting to do as much damage as possible, and that is a pretty good damage roll, which Guts, true to his character, should be rolling a ton of damage, but these guys are just going to be a lot harder to take out because they are very, very tough. And now you can see also why you would choose to play additional cards. So that Deadly Charge, it's okay on its own as an attack with the dice that it provides, but because I was able to add that additional movement and move forward that 4 to, get close enough to add that qualifying factor for that attack, that's what made it so much stronger and contributed to extra dice. So it's adding dice for you, it's adding things like movement, which might help buff certain abilities, and it's adding shields for you for when it's the monster turn. So there's a lot to consider when you're choosing what cards to play, but that's going to cost us 4 fatigue. So you can only imagine that you can't keep up the pace of playing 4 cards turn over turn over turn, because you're also making yourself weaker as you increase your fatigue. You're getting a little bit more ineffective at certain things as things start affecting you with what you're triggering. So you really have to keep an eye on how many cards you want to be playing and that gentle balance, because generally playing 2 cards for 2 fatigue is a very middle ground where it's not that bad, and playing 1 card gaining 0 fatigue is great, but usually that's not something that powerful. You're not moving that much. Perhaps enemies are going to come and swarm you, so you really have to think out the pace of play of what you're going to be playing with how many cards you choose to play each round. Now, that has been a lot about a damage dealer's turn, but to take a look at what Sherika might be playing, there is an astral pool that they are working with. So for example, there's this card here, which is add 2 cubes to your astral pool, which you'll add over here. But here's an example, Blast, which is this attack targets all adjacent enemies, meaning that she would need to run up and be close to everyone and be really in the fray of everything. But then she is able to spend these cubes, and for each cube spent before this attack, subtract 2 armor from each adjacent enemy until the end of the turn. So you can see where that's absolutely huge, where where she's not just buffing her own attack, but she's actually making everyone around here a whole lot more effective and doing a lot more damage, but it does cost those astral cubes. So you need ways to gain them, such as the first card I showed you, where you're trying to add to the pool, but then after that, when you have some to spend, you can do some pretty cool things with her magic dealing. Now, one thing to note about the dice and why you are choosing to roll certain ones when you are using your cards is that some are going to be better than others. So you have this black die here and it has 3 blank sides, but it has 3 sides with a 6 on it, meaning that it's going to do a total of 6 damage. So your yellow die are going to be your weakest, where there is a blank side, but then other than that you have 1s and 2s, and then you're going to have all different dice that will change from there. So your reds are going to go up to 3, whereas your blues are going to be able to go up to 4. So depending on what you're able to contribute to your rolls, that's why you're choosing certain dice, because some are going to be able to do more damage than others, but as I showed you, some are going to trigger certain abilities based on the color die, so you may choose to contribute more of a certain color depending on what you're triggering with your abilities as well. Now, once all heroes have had their turn where they go through everything that's available to them, such as moving, their ability, perhaps attacking, you also have your ally available to you, so they will be taking their turn as well, but then it will go on to the enemy phase where they will move toward you, they will also attack, and they hit very, very hard. So allies such as this Skull Knight over here with Force Shield is going to be absolutely crucial, and that's when players will leave these cards out, because this is going to provide shield for you as well, which can be very, very important. Now, one final thing to note when you're playing your cards, there are going to be some here with this lightning bolt symbol. Now, at the end of every round, you are going to gain your cards back to your hand after your shields have been determined and everything like that, but anything with that lightning bolt symbol actually won't come back. So once you spend it, there are certain things that might get those cards back for you, but when you use those, it's meant to be a bit more powerful where you might not be getting those back. Now, the event card system walks you through the game very, very well. That obviously there's the pace of play between the heroes and the monsters, but the event cards are going to have you going through when certain things trigger, and that's really what's going to take you through the story of the game as well, because things are going to trigger when certain things happen, such as interacting with certain points or when certain enemies are killed. So that's also, wink wink, going to tell you when you may or may not reach your victory condition. So you're definitely going to want to be keeping an eye on these event cards, because that's the heart of what you're trying to do, but it's also going to walk you through it very, very clearly, that it's always pretty obvious what you need to do. It might not be easy, you might not be able to do it, but you at least know what you're trying to do and what the game asks. Now, one final thing to note is that the miniatures for this game really did get a lot of love, that I do highly suggest checking out the GameFound page for, closer up, better photos of all of this, but I did just want to shout these out, that I'm sure a lot of people that are looking at this may be fans of the manga and want to see exactly how these miniatures look and what they're able to do with them, so I do just want to shout out that the miniatures, in my opinion, do seem very, very well done. Berserk the board game is going to be a highly thematic cooperative game where players are really going to feel overwhelmed. Now, there's going to be a ton of enemies, and they also have a ton of health, and they do a ton of damage. So if you're familiar with the manga, but even if you're not, you're going to be very overwhelmed by the different monsters that are coming at you. And if you are a fan of the manga, I think you'll really enjoy the campaign arcs and everything that you're able to do. But if you're someone that doesn't like campaigns and you just want to jump in and play a scenario, that's a way that you're also able to play this game. So you're really able to choose the best ways that you want to play depending on what you enjoy. And as I said, I do think the event cards really pull you through the story, so they do that in a very clear way that leaves all of the strategy to the cards that you're playing, as well as working cooperatively with your friends, because the map can be very thinky in how you're moving around it, especially as more and more enemies come and they get bigger and stronger. So you're going to be working together, taking a look at the board to see everything that you're able to do. Now, I also said that you are able to upgrade your characters, which can be very fun because you're making your cards stronger and stronger, and there are all different ways that you're able to do this throughout the campaign. So you have a lot of options for just different ways to make your characters feel a bit cooler. Now, if you'd like to see exactly how this game plays, as I said, there will be a gameplay on the channel, and you can check out the GameFound link down below for everything that Monolith currently has planned. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel. I'm Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye!